After over 25 years of marriage, we've learned that successful couples have great friendships, put each other first, and focus on light just as much as love. We believe marriage should be fun and easy.
Our goal is to share our journey with the hopes of helping others build strong, happy relationships. Join us as we continue to create our lives beyond I do.
Do you and your partner want to learn simple ways to grow closer?
Do you and your partner want to grow happier together?
Do you and your partner want to be a unified front?
Do you and your partner want to divorce-proof your marriage?
If you answer yes to these questions, you need to check out our book, Unlock It Forever, 10 Keys to a Successful Marriage Beyond I Do.
Each section focuses on a different aspect of marriage and briefly describes how we handled it in our relationship. At the end of the section, you're given an action step or key to complete with your partner.
These keys are practical steps you can immediately implement in your relationship and help you and your partner be proactive and intentional about your relationship.
You can purchase your copy on Amazon.com.
And until next time, we will holler at y'all. We are not marriage counselors, nor are we mental health professionals. We're just simply sharing y'all how we navigated through our marriage. Now, on with the show.
Welcome back to the Beyond I Do podcast. Today we have a special guest. This season we've been focusing on how to divorce-proof your marriage. And so today we have with us someone who specializes in working with women before they say I do. So we'd like to welcome author, podcaster, public speaker, wife, mother, and grandmother to the Beyond I Do podcast. And interestingly enough, her podcast is called the Before I Do podcast. So we'd like to welcome Miss Verlyn Tarlton to the Beyond I Do podcast. Thank you
so much.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
If you would tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you do and how you got to that point.
Okay. Again, like you said, well, let me just back up a little bit. I am a lover of knowledge. I love learning. I love sharing and reading, and I love writing. And so it all kind of comes together because I get to share the things that I learn, and I get to also share the things that I'm experiencing. As far as what I'm doing right now, and I'm also a mother of 5 and a grandmother of 4 beautiful granddaughters, all granddaughters.
Oh, wow.
And so how I got started in this was kind of by default, just through experience. And the podcast is called Before You Do. And it is in preparation of being happily married. And I stress the happily married because often we just get married through our emotions and we don't think about the work that has to be put into it. And so hearing conversations down through the decades, including my own conversations with myself, and wishing there were things I knew before I got married, before I said I do, I feel like I know I would have been better prepared for the realistic thing called marriage and not the fairy tale thing that I thought in my mind. And so what prompted me to start this podcast was just the conversations with many, many women, and we all had the same mantra. We wish we knew these things before we got married. And so I remember a really young lady. You know, you've gotten to that age of middle age when young ladies are calling you Miss Verlyn.
Or auntie.
And so she said, you should find a way where you could have these conversations. We were like to share this in front of a lot of people. And so I was like, you know what, I always wanted to be in radio when I was like 17 or 18. And I said, I'm going to start a podcast. It took a little over a year, but that's how I was born through just down the years having these conversations and me having a desire to see women and men, couples, happily married, not
Right.
Yes.
just making
Right.
it and not just saying we're going to cope, but actually happily married. And I think that comes with some logic in place. And so
Right.
I try to bring the logical balance to the emotional.
Right.
Right. And it's, I mean, that was kind of like we started with the purpose of showing that there are happy couples, and what you're doing, the preparation part is so important. I think that a lot of people, I would say women, but women and men, there's a lot of unrealistic
Yep.
expectations. And so to help these people, from the beginning, to have a better understanding of what to expect. I know for me, I never really asked myself or said, I wish I had known this. It was more of a I don't know. It was a live and learn type thing.
Mhm.
And I'm just thankful that every lesson that was learned fell on the right side of, of the fence and didn't go the wrong direction.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, one of the things I ask when I hear someone's, I want to get married or I'm engaged, one of the first things I'm starting to ask now is, why do you want to get married? A lot of times we
Mm.
don't even think of that. I know for
Right.
me, when I was young, I saw people were married and I thought that was the thing to do. And that's
Mhm.
fine. However, as you get older, you need, in my opinion, to get married with a purpose. And the
Right.
Right.
purpose is more than just, oh, I just want to get married because we're in love. You
Mhm.
need
All
to
right.
really, why do you want to get married? Because you saw your cousin get married,
Mm,
because your best friend got married. Like, why do you want to get married? And so that's where I start with your why. Why do you want to get married? And if you don't have something to really substantiate that, then usually you might want to go back and reevaluate and really think about, why do I want to
Mhm.
get married? Because you
hmm
can't get married just because your cousin got married and she had a beautiful wedding and now you want to do it. That's not
Right.
Yeah.
sustainable. So,
Right. And
mhm,
with businesses, with career choices, they always say start with your why.
mhm.
So it
Mhm.
makes sense in your life choices. You need to do that as well.
Yeah. No, oftentimes I know in our community we hear people. Well, I ain't gonna say people. I've heard a lot of women in the past say, oh, the older women will say, that biological clock is ticking. You're starting to hit 30. You need or grandparents or people like that will ask, when you gonna have some babies?
Oh, oh.
It's
Yeah,
like,
so
oh
you got
my
that
goodness.
pressure.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. And that was we did an episode about divorce, and people were talking about some of the reasons that they were married, and it surprised me that the family dynamics, the pressure from the family was so much that some
Yeah.
people did it because of that. I'm very headstrong and always have been, so the idea of that is foreign to me. So it was surprising to see that so many people do make those big decisions for that.
Mhm, mhm.
What is something that when you're working with women, how do you know, or how do you tell them to think about it, whether or not they're really ready for this? So once you ask them why, from there, how do they know that they're ready for marriage?
Well, you know how it is. When you talk to people, most of the time they come to you and they may ask you questions, but they already know what they are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
they
Yep.
may be coming hoping either for confirmation or
Hmm.
for validation. What I have learned to do is listen to the reasons, or if they've already gotten married, I will ask, well, why did you get married? And what I've learned is people are going to do what they're going to do, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
so the best thing after I hear the answer, if it's for something that sounds like it's not sustainable, if it's just like, well, we're in love, then I will ask more questions. Well, what else? You know how when you
Right.
have a child and they say, well, why this? And you say, the answer. And they say, well, why that? And then you say the answer, and it's why. So I'm asking, well, what else? Okay, you're in love. Well, what else? Well, we want to do this. Okay, well, what else? And then we just have the conversation on what it means to be married and the work that has to be put in it, and whether or not your why is a good enough reason. Is that sustainable? Because what I do know is regular counseling, I've been to counseling before, it wasn't that long, but counseling is kind of like the basics. They say, well, do this, do that, you'll be happy, you obey, you submit, you do this. And it's not, they don't get down to the nitty gritty, at least not in my experience, and not in the experience that I ask about. It's just very basic. And nobody talks about the real nuts and bolts and the real work. And definitely, other than they might say, are you pregnant? Why you get married? Something like that. But it's like, these are conversations that really need to take place, because we, especially women, hate to point us out, but it's true. Men are more practical. They might get married for reasons that really kind of make sense. Practical. They may say, well, I'm financially stable at this point.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Women, we just want to be in love, or like you said, a biological clock, or we saw somebody's beautiful wedding and now we're inspired. And of course, those are not enough reasons. And in my opinion, what I tell women, I believe you're ready to get married when you have come to the point where you are happy and content with yourself. When you want to bring somebody into your life as a compliment, then you're ready. If you say, I want to share my happiness, then you're ready. If you say to me, I'm looking for happiness, I want to be happy, wrong answer.
Right.
If you are unhappy now, then when you get married, you're going to bring your unhappy self into a marriage, and then it's going to have two people unhappy.
Right. I was about to say, and probably make your partner unhappy too.
Exactly.
Because if you're looking at somebody else to make you happy, that's a burden. You become a burden. And so, that's why I say your why is so important. And to me, that's where you need to start. If you're looking for somebody to help pay your bills, if you're looking for somebody to make you happy, if you're looking for someone to serve you, and you're not looking to be of service, then that's already a red flag.
Right.
Once you are content and happy with yourself by yourself, then you should think about, you know what? I want to compliment someone to compliment me, someone to share my happiness with, not somebody to burden. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. I know for this next question, I got to go back to memory lane. There's an old TV show called Bridezilla. Do you remember that?
I heard of it. I never saw it.
Well, we watched a few episodes.
I saw Godzilla.
Well, that's how some of these brides acted. For real. It was called that for a reason. And it would be like, some of the most, of course, it would be some of the most extreme behavior from a lot of the brides. They'd be cussing the future husband to be out, calling him all kind of names. It would always be some type of conflict, and they, but and we often talk about, so many people focus on the wedding day, and they don't focus on the marriage. So how do you get someone from that wedding day mindset to focusing on the strength of their marriage?
That's a great question. And I have podcasts all lined up to talk about that. That's like number 2 behind why do you want to get married? Because usually it's focused around, I want to have this big wedding. I want to have this cake, this dress, this ceremony, all of that. So it's tied. I have this conversation all the time. And the thing that I say is, first of all, and this may not directly answer your question, but it does. Let's think about some logic. Instead of paying $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for a one-day event that nobody's going to be, really, after about 6-8 months, Nobody's going to think about it. You have some
Right.
pictures and that's about it, but you can take pictures anyway. Why not
Mm-hmm.
take that $20, $30 if your parents, whoever's going to invest, and invest that into something that's going to make some money for you?
Right.
Right.
Why not
Right.
invest it
Exactly.
in your first home? Why not buy some land? Why not do something that is sustainable, that helps you in your marriage?
Right.
Exactly.
Because
Right.
you might want a home in the future. You might want
Yep.
some land in the future. You might want to
Exactly.
invest that in some stocks or something that's going to make you some money for your actual
Right.
marriage. All right. So
Yes.
that's the first place I start with the money because that's where things are just like over the top, all of this money for this one day. And really why? Because
Right.
you want to
Exactly.
impress
Right.
people,
Exactly.
You
like
paying.
go in your
You
mama's
paying.
backyard somewhere, get the auntie to
Right.
bring some food, take that
Right.
$20,000 and get your first
Right.
condo at least, So
Right.
We tell people all the time, and I mean, I'm not against anybody doing what they desire to do
mhm.
if you had the means to do it, but I tell people, your wedding is conducive to a CD and a photo album at the end of the day.
Right.
And you just fed a bunch of people. That's what they're coming for. They
Right.
see you walk
Right.
down and eat.
Yep. Yep. And you are exactly right. And I look at everything, is it an asset or a liability? And
Absolutely.
so
Right,
you
right.
got a photo album, like you said, and some CDs or whatever. I mean, I won't say it's a liability. It's somewhat of an asset, but all that cake is gone. All that
Right.
food is
Right.
gone. That venue is gone. None of it is yours. And
Yep.
so,
Right. And to start, you definitely don't want to start out with combined debt
mhm.
from one
Now
day,
look,
but
I'm gonna be mad personally if I bought you this nice blender for your wedding and I come to your house 5 or 6 years from now and it's still in the box.
Yep.
Did you even use that thing yet?
or they're splitting it up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh goodness.
Look it up.
Splitting it when they say, okay, this is not working.
This
Yep,
ain't working.
exactly.
So back to part two. After the whole money thing, what
Mm-hmm.
I say is, what have you done to prepare for after the honeymoon? And usually that is, what type of counseling have you had? Have you sat down and had these conversations? Do you even know if he wants children? You're saying you want 7.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
know if he wants
Oh yeah.
children? Do you
Right.
know if he wants to relocate? My thing is always about talking. Have you talked through and planned out where we want to be in a year? Where do we want to be in
I
5
love
years?
that.
Where do we
Yes.
want to be? Have you had that conversation
Mm.
instead of spending $20,000 for one day? Have you mapped out in writing what is your vision for this marriage? What do
Right.
we want to build together? What are we coming together to accomplish more than just being in love and feeling the giddy feelings?
Mm.
Marriage has a purpose. And so, what purpose are you two fulfilling? That's beyond just that one day that you get together and everybody dances. You can do that on a smaller scale, but put
Right.
that time in to find out what you're getting to. If I do have children, what are the expectations? Do you want me to work? Are we going to save money?
Right.
You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Right.
Am I going to have to go to work, come home, take care of the children? Like, what are your responsibilities? What are my responsibilities?
Mm.
You got to ask people, what does it look like to you? How do we serve in these roles?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like, do you have the traditional mindset? Are you one of the people like, no, forget tradition. We're going to do it a whole different. Like, these are conversations that you have to plan for your marriage. What about discipline?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Right.
Oh
want to
yeah.
beat your children? Do you just want to
Right.
say, hey, buddy,
Right. Are
go
we
sit
gonna
in
gentle
time out?
parent?
Yeah, like these are really, I tell you what, if you think you want to get married, listen to these 2 podcasts, at least the first 100 episodes, and then
There you go.
decide if
Right.
you're
There you
ready to get
go.
married or not.
Right.
Decide. Yes.
And it's, a lot of things that you've mentioned, I feel like when, I don't know, and maybe it was because we were young, maybe it was because social media wasn't around,
Mm.
but for us, we had a lot of learn as we go moments.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we were able to work through those things. But now it's so important to have those conversations up front because you're seeing so much. There's so much out there, positive and negative, about relationships and about marriage, and scenarios that I never would have even thought about. Like the idea that a man would come home in this day and age, would come home and think that his dinner is supposed to be, his plate's supposed to be made, the kids are supposed to be, and he's not going to do anything except pull up a chair and eat the plate that has been fixed and placed in front of him. Like that to me blows my mind in this day and age. But I see people saying that that's how their household runs. So the more planning that you do ahead of time, the better, because you don't want to wake up next to someone and you look at them and their response makes you think, what was that show, Who the Bleep Did I Marry? You don't want to think that based on those things.
Well, that Joker talking about, I want a marriage just like my grandmama and granddaddy had. You ain't see grandma and granddaddy early years.
Right.
You're just looking from your childhood eyes,
Or you gonna ignore the other family that granddaddy has on the other side of town.
That's why you have to have that conversation. What does marriage look like to you?
Right.
Exactly.
And ask, how were your parents? How did they interact as a husband and wife? Because that's probably in the person's mind, how, like you said, that's how we should do. And then you got your own thing. And then let's say one person came up with a single parent. That was that's a whole different dynamic.
Right.
And so preparing for the marriage is a lot of conversation. It's a lot of hard conversation. It's out of the feelings conversation. And I believe in writing stuff down. That's why I said, what's the year plan? What's the 3-year plan? What's the 5-year plan? You need to know what this person is thinking and how they're thinking. Because after the honeymoon is over and a year or two and the bills start kicking in and reality comes to place, you need to have a focus. Okay, this is where we are. We're almost where we said we would be. Whether it's getting out of debt, whether it's staying out of debt, if we're having children, all of those things are so important. And when you think about that, the wedding day itself is so minute.
Right.
But that's where all the money and emphasis is put.
Right. And with each of those changes, and then when you throw a kid in the mix, and when you home ownership and all those things, each of those changes, there's a level of stress. Even if it's good stress, it's still stress.
BB King said it. He said the thrill is gone, baby.
Exactly.
The thrill is gone.
Right.
And look, you probably should have took the $20,000 and put 10 of each on your student loans.
I know that. Exactly.
You didn't think about that payment coming.
So what are we talk a lot about unrealistic expectations. So some of the ones that you see with some of the women that you worked with?
Them shake your head ones now. I need to shake your head. Come on.
Let me tell you, they're all almost primarily the same. Here it is. And I bet you've heard it. Women anticipate totally different from men. Let me go back. Men marry under the assumption that this beautiful, sweet woman is going to stay just like that. And the woman thinks, it's okay, I'll deal with that because he's going to change.
Yes.
Exactly.
And when the two meet, those unrealistic expectations, and this is what I see. The woman is waiting for the man to change, if he smacks when he eats or, he can't keep a job or whatever, right? She's saying, okay, I got him now. He's going to change. I know he's going to do better. Honey, you look for a job. Honey, can you chew with your mouth closed? Whatever it is that she wants him to change. And then she's waiting. And he's saying, oh, I just love her so much. That's my baby. Look how sweet she is. And what happens is when the man doesn't change, the woman inevitably gets a little, okay, now I'm waiting. I've been waiting. It's been 2 months. It's been 3 months. And then you see the little attitude come, a little bit of resentment. And then
Yeah.
she starts to slowly change. So whereas I'll use your example, she might have fixed his plate before being real. Here
Right.
you go. Well, if you still between jobs, because you didn't have that conversation before you got married, are you going to work? Are you going to keep a job?
Right.
Fix
And
your
so
own damn
now
plate.
you ain't fixing that plate. And if you are, you slamming it on the table.
Right.
And where you used to put all that love and extra mashed potatoes, he just got a little dip of that. So next thing he might be having a bowl of cereal. And so now the man can change,
Yep.
right? And the woman has changed. And those are the unrealistic expectations.
Yes.
The woman thinks the man's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
Man thinks the woman is going to stay the same. But women will change. And men, whatever he's doing is probably going to be multiplied.
Yes.
So if he's smacking now when he eats, it might be a little irritation now, but it's going to be your life song.
Amplified.
Yep.
It's going to be your new life song.
Right.
Smack, smack, smack.
Right. And when you look at him, you're going to see it. That's Oprah's. There was I don't even know who the guest was, but when she had her show, there was a guest on there and they were talking about relationships. And they said, I don't know if it was her or the guest said, you never marry a person for their potential. And that stuck with me. We all have the potential to be rocket scientists, but all of us are not going to be that. And so you can't rely on that potential. You have to look at the person you have and think, okay, do I want kids that are going to be just like this? And that's eye-opening. That's eye-opening when you look at it that way.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So my answer to the person is what you said. What you see is what you get. Right?
Yes.
Are you satisfied? If he does not change and he stays just like he is, except it'll be magnified once you live together, are you willing to deal with that? And if that's a yes, then maybe that's a realistic expectations, but you got to really sit down and be real with that. All the things that you say, oh, I wish he would change. You need to be having that talk now, not just thinking in your mind, I know he's going to change. No, you do not. If he didn't tell you he's going to change, then he's probably not going to change. And so, that's
those
for
things
real.
that, oh, that's so cute and quirky. That might not be cute and quirky when you get off work and you're coming home and you had a rough day and he's doing it. That might start to get irritating.
Exactly. Now, we talk a lot about communication and how important that is. So what are some of the most important communication skills that a woman needs to know before she even thinks about getting married?
Reflective listening.
I like that.
Reflective listening. That means we're not listening for a response.
Yes.
We're not listening to give a rebuttal. We're not listening to defend ourselves. We are listening to understand.
Yes.
Listening to say back to the person, to your spouse, what is it? This is what I think I'm hearing. And then repeat it back. And not only listening to the words, but listening to the feeling behind the word.
Yes.
How is he feeling? Is he feeling like you are not in his corner? Is he feeling that you're putting him down? Is he feeling disrespect? So it's important to practice reflective listening. That is to shut your mouth and all the thoughts that are saying, I can't wait till he finishes so I can get this out.
Yes.
Oh man, he said that. And that's not what a whole conversation is going on in your mind. And all he's trying to do is get one thought out. And you've already formulated 50,000.
Yes.
And so reflective listening, there is no communication if there's no listening.
I love that.
That's my opinion. There's no communication.
That's true.
If nobody is listening and comprehending, I used to be the one say, communication, but I learned that is so not true.
Right.
If I don't understand what's being said, what good is communication?
Right.
It didn't
Right.
do
You
no
can
good.
say it 5,000 times. That's
Right.
5,000 times. I'm not going to understand what you're saying. And so if we as women practice reflective listening, that
Yes.
means it's not about me. I'm here. I'm focused. What are you saying? And how are you feeling? So then I can say it back to you. Okay, so when I said to you such and such, you felt disrespected. Is that what
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing? He say yay or nay. And then
Mhm.
you from there, you validate that. Okay,
Right. Yes.
I said that. I apologize. That was not my intent. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I was a little attitudinal. Maybe I was a little heated. I never want to disrespect you. And
Right.
practice some humility. How can I make this
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
teach my
Yes.
children that. How can I make this right?
Right. Right.
That is so key because if a man can feel like he can be heard,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of, well, I ain't say that, and you said this to me 2 weeks ago, we're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about that. We're
Right.
talking
Right.
about right now, right
Right.
here. So to me, communication, I stress reflective listening. Shut your
Mm.
brain down from comments, listen to what's being said, try to understand, repeat it back, validate it, humble yourself, and
Mm.
deal with the issue
Mhm.
at hand.
Let me tell you, we stress that communication, and I love that you immediately answered with listening, because
Yes.
we stress that communication is important, but we have to understand that we get the speaking part.
Yeah.
Hmm.
People love to ignore that listening part, and
Yep.
that's where the magic happens, is when
Hmm.
you listen.
They don't listen to comprehend. They listen to respond.
They
Hmm. And rebuttal,
listen.
Yeah.
defend.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so the fact that you said that, and then with validating
Hmm.
his feelings,
Hmm.
because men, you know, and we talk about this, and it's hard to, especially like we live in a time where like men catch a lot. They catch a lot, and some of them deserve it. I mean, some of them deserve it, but they're told they have to be strong. They can't cry. They can't show feelings because that's weakness.
Hmm.
And so if he can't do that out in society, that's one thing. But at home,
Yeah.
home has to be safe for everyone who lives there, including the head of the house, including the man, the provider, the husband. If he's had a hard day at work, he has to be able to come home and shed that. He has to be able to open up. If I say something that offends him, that hurts his feelings, he has to be able to come to me and say that, or we will never get to a level of connection and closeness that I want in my marriage. Now, everybody might not want that, and
Yeah.
that's cool too. But I want that connection. I want my partner to be able to come to me and be open and vulnerable with me, and that helps me to be open and vulnerable with him too. So I love that you said that. You came right out the gate with listening, because people don't.
Yeah.
Look,
People,
you got me. I'm about to nod my head off. Everything you said, yes. I'm
yeah.
shaking my head. I'm like, I hope my head don't fall off.
Don't
and
listen. And that's the most important part.
Mm.
So when it comes to disagreements, what suggestions do you have for women when it comes to disagreements? When it comes to, okay, your husband, your spouse is expressing this to you, or this man is expressing something to you, how do you help them learn how to stop and listen and not be on the defensive?
okay, that's a great question, and it was funny because I was going to say, can I go backtrack to the communication? But it's all in line.
Mm.
This is something that has to be practiced, and
Mm,
that is being able to listen and remove anger and remove the things we don't want to hear necessarily, maybe the tone or the pitch, and hear what the issue is. And so if the man is like, I'm tired of your lazy uncle coming over here all the time, eating up our food, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, don't think about the anger.
mhm,
Mm.
Don't take it personally. hear what the issue is.
Yes.
Okay. There's somebody who's not working. Your husband is going out working all the time. And you got this relative that keeps coming in, taking advantage. What is the point, right? Learning to listen beyond the anger or beyond the attitude. Again, you're listening to how they feel, not necessarily the emotion, but the fact that he's saying, look, this is problematic. And so when you hear whatever it is you hear, it all really is an art. It's like an art just to be married, just to be able to, like you said, work through these disagreements. And during the disagreements, you know how it is. Everybody wants to be heard.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
You want to get your point across. You can't wait, And sometimes women, we just have to take that time out for a minute.
Yes.
And hear. Again, it goes back to the listening. Whatever the complaint is, don't worry about the anger.
Right.
We have to grow past the anger, past maybe the raising of the voice. Now, we're not going to get into name calling, and profanity, clearly. But to hear what is being said and address the issue. And for me, what I try to remember and what I try to teach people, he is not the problem. She is not the problem.
Right.
The problem is the problem.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's a place you got to work on, because all you hear is that person, and he doesn't pick up his socks, and she doesn't do this, and what is the problem? The problem is, let's all pitch in and keep the house clean.
Exactly.
Right? What is the problem? It's not her, it's not him. And if you could come remembering, we're not the problem.
Right.
Let's work together and solve the problem, because the problem is the problem, right?
Yeah.
You know what? I almost jumped. You saw me jump a little bit. We used to tell our kids everything in our house produces. So when something needs cleaning, when something needs, like, you have to pitch in, you have to do your part. Everything in our house produces. You can't just sit here and not be a part of it. So that's something that we even stress with our children. And he knows when it comes to both of us, nobody is waiting on anybody around here.
I need y'all to come to my house.
Look,
we are not
it have been plenty of times I done worked 12 hours, come home, and she's busy doing schoolwork. Dishes piled up. Hey, I pull the dishwasher open and load it up. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it needs to be, and we tell the kids, it has to be done.
Right.
There's no ways around it.
Nobody is coming to do it for us.
Save you. They not coming to save you.
Right.
Exactly.
But I don't know if that answered your question, but my answer was, the husband's not the problem.
Yes.
The wife is not the problem. The problem is the problem.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
That is awesome. Well, Verlyn, look, you have gave us so many jewels, so many. Oh my God. We're gonna have to bring you back. That's all I can say.
You hear me say?
I hope so.
Absolutely, because
ain't no we gonna have to. You come back. Without a shadow of a doubt.
You have given so much valuable insight into before the vows and how to prepare. So if you could give one final piece of advice to women who are about to walk down that aisle and say, I do, what would that one piece of advice be?
Balance. To remember you're a woman first. And even in your role as wife, you have to learn to balance that, so you are serving, but you're not losing yourself.
Yes.
It's very hard.
Yes.
You got to get your mind right, because it's all about serving. You know, you can't go into marriage thinking me, serve me, make me happy, do what I want, fulfill my needs. You have to go in with the mind of a servant.
Yes.
And at the same time, you have to balance that so you don't lose yourself. So you're a woman first, and you play the role of wife and mother and all of that. So go to serve, but remember everything has balance. Think about it, you got night and day. They balance. Up, down, left, right. There's for balance. Those opposite is for balance. And so that's it. Balance, be a server, but don't lose yourself. That's what I see happening a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
That's what I did.
And to all our male listeners, that goes for you too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We take care of each other.
Yes, yes.
So for listeners who want to learn more from the Before You Do podcast, where can they find you?
Okay, 2 places. My website, which is my name, www.Verlyn, Verlyn, like Nancy, and then Tarlton, T like Thomas, ARLTON.com. And that will take you to the podcast and my books. And then I'm on Facebook, podcaster author Verlyn Tarlton, same spelling. And from there, I don't think that's attached to my Instagram. So anyway, my website with my name, verlyntarlton.com, and then Facebook, I am podcaster, author, like the one who writes books. Sometimes people think I'm a man. They be like, "You author?" I be like, "No, it's AUTHOR, author." Verlyn Tarlton.
And we'll make sure and include those notes when we post your episode so that people can find you. And we definitely will. We would love to have you come back. The last little nugget you left us with was about not losing yourself. So that would be a perfect place for us to pick up the conversation the next time, because I've seen some women ask about support in that area. So we'll put a pin in that, and we're just going to go ahead and speak it that you're going to be back with us.
Oh, yes, she's coming back. She's coming back. No, without a doubt, she's coming back.
Yes, I would love it.
All right, until next time, we will holler at y'all.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Beyond I Do podcast.
Please make sure to like this episode and also subscribe to our podcast. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the Beyond I Do podcast.
And until next time, we will holler at y'all.